I used to think my home felt heavy because of the mess, but really, it was all the decisions I hadn't made. It wasn't about clutter on the surface. It was the quiet weight of objects I didn't use, tasks I kept postponing, and rooms that never felt restful no matter how often I cleaned them. I didn't want a prettier space, I wanted to feel lighter in it. That's when I started looking into Japanese minimalism, not as a design trend, but as a way of thinking that might actually give me some breathing room. In this video, I'll walk you through a few ways Japanese minimalism helped me shift how I live, not all at once, but in real, doable ways that helped things feel a little less overwhelming. Would I miss this if it were gone? It took me way too long to realize that half the heaviness in my home came from stuff I didn't even like anymore. Not junk exactly, just things I thought I should keep, gifts. I felt guilty getting rid of clothes that hadn't fit in years, items that used to matter, but no longer do. The problem wasn't storage space, it was decision fatigue. Every time I opened a drawer or closet, I felt a little wave of guilt or stress. It added up. One shift that helped pick one small area, maybe the bottom shelf of your nightstand, or that overstuffed bathroom basket, and ask yourself, would I actually go looking for this if it weren't already here? If the answer's no, it's probably safe to let it go. There's relief in not having to manage what doesn't serve you anymore. Once you feel that lightness, it gets easier to do it again. Let's build from that and talk about why too much stuff makes our minds feel scattered. 2. Many choices. Too little peace. You know those mornings where your closet is full, but nothing feels right. That decision spiral is exhausting, and it doesn't just happen with clothes. Too many options in our home schedules or even kitchen drawers quietly drain us. And the fix isn't to organize better. It's to have fewer choices in the first place. When I finally narrowed my closet down to a few basics I actually liked and wore, mornings felt calmer, no second guessing. Just get dressed and move on. I've started applying the same idea in other areas. 1 pen in the drawer, not 6. 2 mugs I love, not a shelf of random ones. Simplifying what you reach for daily gives your brain one less thing to handle. And that quiet adds up in ways you can feel. Start with a shared zone. It's one thing to simplify your own stuff, but what if the clutter isn't yours? A lot of people get stuck here. Maybe your partner loves collecting things, or your kids leave toys everywhere. It's frustrating to want calm, but feel like you're the only one clearing the path. One shift that helped me focus on shared zones. I stopped trying to control every space, and instead picked one area like the entryway or kitchen counter that we could all agree to keep clear. Even if the rest of the house felt chaotic, having that one pocket of calm made a difference. Japanese minimalism isn't about forcing others to change. It's about making space for clarity where you can. Start small, lead by example, and over time, the energy of that one space might ripple further than you think. Let's keep going, because once your space feels clearer, the next challenge is often sticking with it. Pause before you click buy. I used to buy things just because they looked like they'd solve something. A new basket meant I was finally going to organize. A cute top meant I might feel more put together. But most of it just sat there, adding to the overwhelm. The shift came when I started asking, will this actually change how I live, or just how I feel for a second? That one pause stopped a lot of impulse buys. Not from guilt, just clarity. I started walking out of stores empty-handed more often, and strangely, I felt lighter each time. Next time you're about to click buy, give yourself a 24-hour wait. Not as a punishment, but as a reset. You might find the urge passes, and if it doesn't, at least you'll know the choice came from intention, not impulse. This mindset leads naturally into something even more freeing, learning to value space just as it is. The second pass matters more. Sometimes you start strong, you let go of a few bags of stuff, the room feels better, and then suddenly you're stuck. What's left doesn't feel wrong, but it doesn't feel quite right either. That in-between is where a lot of people quit. One habit that helped me keep going: revisit one drawer or shelf a week with fresh eyes. Not to redo everything, just to ask, does this still make sense for how I live today? Because our needs shift. That hobby you paused. The tools for a project that's no longer relevant. Minimalism isn't a one-time purge. It's a gentle, ongoing adjustment. And when you frame it that way, it becomes less about being done and more about staying connected to what matters now. And speaking of connection, minimalism isn't only about removing stuff. Sometimes it's about finding a rhythm that holds you. Leave one surface empty. It used to feel wrong to leave a shelf empty, like I was wasting potential. So I'd fill it candles, books. I wasn't reading some random object that looked nice but meant nothing. Eventually I stopped and asked myself, why does empty space feel uncomfortable? What I've learned is that space is where calm lives. That open shelf isn't missing something, it's holding room to breathe. Now I leave gaps on purpose, a bare corner, a quiet wall. It shifts the whole energy of a room without me having to add anything. Try this: clear off one surface completely. Not to redecorate it, just leave it bare for a few days. Notice how it feels when you walk by. That stillness might be the thing you didn't know you needed. Coming up, we'll explore how the way we treat our stuff affects how we feel in our homes. Care for what you already have. At some point, I realized I was treating my things like they were temporary, tossing them in drawers, letting dust collect, always thinking I'd deal with it later. But the truth is, when we treat our belongings like they don't matter, we end up living in a space that doesn't feel cared for. And that energy comes back to us in stress, in guilt, in the constant low-grade pressure of unfinished business. Respecting what you own doesn't mean being precious or perfect. It means wiping down the counter before bed, folding a blanket, instead of tossing it, fixing that hinge that's been squeaking for months. These small acts say I'm choosing to take care of what I have, and that choice builds calm. If you're feeling disconnected from your space, try this: pick one item, anything, and give it a moment of care. Clean it, fix it, or display it properly. See how that tiny action shifts the way you see the room. From here, we can look at how cleaning itself can be something more than just a chore. Clean one thing. While the tea steeps, for a long time I saw cleaning as a task to get through something I did when things got bad enough. But I started noticing a pattern. On days when I wiped down the kitchen after breakfast or cleared the clutter off the coffee table, I felt noticeably calmer. Not because everything looked perfect, but because I was doing something that restored order, even just a little. In Japanese minimalism, cleaning isn't about appearances. It's about caring for the space that holds your life. That shift made it easier to show up for it, not as a chore, but as a reset. Start small. Clean one corner while waiting for your tea to steep. Wipe down the bathroom sink before bed. These aren't big changes, but they're grounding ones. Over time, They build a sense of control that starts to carry over into everything else. And once you've made room for calm and routine, something else begins to feel possible, choosing fewer better things from the start. Own less, but own well. There's a difference between owning less and owning well. For years, I'd buy the cheaper version, whether it was clothes, kitchen tools, or furniture, thinking I was being practical. But most of it didn't last. It broke, wore out, or just never worked right. And slowly, I realized I was constantly replacing things instead of choosing once and being done. Now, I'd rather have one pan I love cooking with than 3 that frustrate me. One pair of jeans that fit right than 5 that don't. When something earns its place, I take care of it, and that care becomes part of how I feel in my home. If you're trying to simplify, don't just ask, what can I get rid of? Also ask, what's worth keeping and using? Well, up next, we'll talk about a quiet habit that helps connect your home to something deeper than just design nature. Let something living in. There's something about having even one living thing in a room that softens everything. I used to think bringing nature inside meant buying big plants or keeping flowers alive. But it doesn't have to be complicated. A small pot of herbs on the windowsill, a smooth stone from a walk, even a wooden spoon on the counter, something real, something grounded. Japanese minimalism reminds us that nature doesn't have to be separate from our routines. When there's something living in your space, even something small, it reminds you to slow down, to breathe, to be present for a moment. If you're overwhelmed, start simple. One low-maintenance plant in a spot you walk by every day. Not to decorate, just to reconnect. That quiet touch can make your space feel more alive in a way that doesn't ask anything from you. Which brings us to the final shift, one that doesn't require anything new at all. Notice what's already enough. Some days, I catch myself wanting just one more thing to make the house feel done. A new throw pillow, a better shelf, something to fix that last corner that still doesn't feel right. But when I pause and really look around, I realize most of what I need is already here. In Japanese minimalism, gratitude isn't a feeling you wait for. It's something you practice. I started naming 3 things in my home each day that I'm genuinely glad to have, not fancy things, just honest ones. A mug that fits my hand just right. A working lamp. The fact that I have a quiet place to sit. This isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about remembering that enough might already be in the room with you. The beauty of simplicity. For a long time, I thought simplicity meant settling. Like it was plain or boring, or meant I couldn't enjoy things. But over time, I realized the most peaceful spaces in my home weren't the ones I styled the most. They were the ones I left alone. A clear dining table, one photo on the shelf, a single towel hanging neatly in the bathroom. Those simple details started to feel less and more like space to actually breathe. Japanese minimalism shows us that simplicity isn't about giving things up. It's about choosing with intention. When everything has a purpose, even a quiet one, your space becomes less about performance and more about support. If you're feeling pulled to buy or redo something, pause. Ask yourself what's already here that I could appreciate more. Often that shift is all it takes to feel differently without adding a thing. The real takeaway here isn't about having the perfect minimalist home. It's about finding small ways to make your space feel more supportive and less overwhelming. Even one shift, clearing a surface, letting go of a useless item, or choosing not to buy something can make your day feel a little more manageable. Over time, that sense of calm builds. You're not chasing a lifestyle, you're creating one that quietly works for you. If this felt helpful, feel free to like or subscribe. It's a simple way to keep these ideas coming.